relationship with Leah, I want you to notice we've got 7 children out of that. 7 out of 13. We've got Reuben and Simeon and Levi and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun and Dinah. Out of Rachel, we have 2, Joseph and Benjamin. But because Jacob really didn't want to marry Leah, he didn't love her, and it started this rivalry. It wasn't real friendly either, but it started a rivalry between Rachel and Leah for the love of Jacob. And it gets kind of interesting as you read about that. And so what happens is, Leah has a handmaid named Zilpah. Rachel has Bilhah. So you got Bilhah and Zilpah. And so Rachel's not having any children. Her womb is closed up. Leah's having them left and right. And so Rachel says, look, I'm going to give you my handmaid to raise up children for me, which is a custom in that day. And so Bilhah is given to Jacob as a wife. And now Bilhah has 2 kids, Dan and Naphtali. Okay, all right, we're back in the competition now. And then Leah stops bearing, and she gives her handmaid Zilpah. She is trying her best to get this guy to love her, and thinking, if I just bear him sons, he'll love me. How many of you women want in a relationship like that? How many of you men want in a relationship like this? Oh my goodness. And so out of that, Zilpah has the Asher and Gad. So the 2 handmaids both produce 2 children each. Asher and Gad, and Dan and Naphtali. Yeah. Okay, and Rachel has Joseph and Benjamin. Now you can see, it was by the way, she died in childbirth of Benjamin. But you can see now why Jacob favored Joseph. This was the one son that he had at the time by the woman that he loved. So he gets special treatment because this is the one I wanted to have children by in the first place. So there's special treatment that's given there. All right, so, boy, I'm so glad we don't have this set up today.
How old were Rachel and Leah? You know, when
I don't know.
probably 100.
They were aging all the time.
That's what scares me.
Don't you get paid to know that?
Oh, don't go. He's too close. Don't go.
We're going to look at the Abrahamic covenant real quickly. I like to think that the Abrahamic covenant is presented or proposed in chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. This is what I want to do for you. I'm going to make of you a great nation, and so on. It's reaffirmed in chapter 13, sealed in chapter 15, clarified in chapter 17, and a final confirmation in chapter 22. And as I read through those passages, I just think to myself, wow, God is very clear that this covenant is not temporary. He goes to great lengths to say, I am establishing a permanent covenant with you and with your descendants. And that covenant includes a land. Okay, so here are elements of the Abrahamic covenant. He says in chapter 12, verse 2, I will make you a nation, Abraham. I'm going to make you into a nation. Notice it is singular as we begin. It gets expanded later. I would like for you, he also gives him a land. Would you look with me at Genesis 13? Genesis 13, verses 14 and 15. After Lot had separated from Abram, we can say that this is the first time that Abram has really done the four things he's supposed to do. It's not until Lot separates. You remember what was happening? Lot had a bunch of shepherds raising their sheep, and Abram had a lot of shepherds raising their, and the two groups of shepherds fought and quarreled. And Abram finally said, you know, we're brothers. Let's not have all this going on. I tell you what, we need to separate and go our separate ways. You know, we'll visit on Christmas and Easter, but he probably didn't say that. And so they finally separate, and as soon as that happens, then here's what God says. It says when he had left, I lost my place.
14 northwest, south.
Somebody read it for me. Yes.
After Lot left, the Lord said to Abram, look all around you, to the north, the south, the east, and the west. All this land I will give, that you see, I will give you and your descendants forever.
All right. And finally God says, and he does it with talking about the land. And I think that's very interesting. Would you look with me over at chapter 15, verse 18. Chapter 15. Look at verse 18. Chapter 15 is very interesting. I would really strongly suggest that you read chapter 15. Because here, God is saying, I'm going to do this for you, Abram. I am going to do this. How do I know, Lord, that I'll really be able to possess this land? All right, Abram, look. We're going to do an old-fashioned covenant here. And you take some animals, you take some birds. The animals you cut in half. One half over here, one half over here. And the birds are also killed, but they're not split in two. You put half on each side. Now the idea with this is that I'm making a covenant with Paul. A very important covenant. It's going to cost the lives of some animals here. And so he and I say we're going to establish this covenant. And so we take these animals, we cut them in half and put them on either side. Okay? And then what happens is Paul and I walk through that together. May the Lord do to us as we've done to these animals if I ever break my word on this covenant. May I be slain. And so it was a covenant that would cost you your life if you broke it. And so God has Abram split the animals. And then, along toward the evening, God Himself, not God and Abram, but God Himself alone, passes between the animals, signifying, if I ever break my covenant with you, Abram, it'll cost me my life. Well, that's not going to happen. Why did God do that? He was saying, I mean business. I am going to do this, and my very existence proves it. It's an incredible, incredible thing. So He's going to give him a land, going to give him a blessing, Genesis 12. I think he was just blessed financially. He was blessed with probably just the way things went in his life. And he would be a blessing to all nations. And God will curse those who curse him and bless those who bless him. I take that as perpetual because the entire covenant is